So let's get this rolling. Can you state your name?
Mm-hmm. I'm Karl Uncle Yo Custer.
And just for the reference, you do give us full permission to use the video?
Full permission.
Basically, I've already stated your name. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Well, for a couple of years, I've been touring the anime, comic book, and video game convention circuit, particularly geek-oriented events, because I became a geek-specific stand-up comedian. In that I don't want to just talk about regular life things and throw in a Mortal Kombat reference. I want to specifically talk about particular anime that I enjoy, what it's like being a Poke fan as it is. And it became a bunch of other things such as emceeing work, hosting opportunities, and whenever I can write a review for something, but primarily it's there for the jokes. It's there to compete with the rest of the internet.
Throughout the years, and this is probably changing now, but throughout the years, it's kind of been like a stigma that to be a geek, you have to be a certain way, you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, and might even be seen as a sign of immaturity. Is there anything you would like to say about that?
The original definition of the geek was the sideshow spinoff of the freak that you would have inside carnivals. They were the people who simply did shock spectacles, biting the head off of a live or dead chicken, etc., etc. Ever since, I guess, the internet really took off, ever since comic books became summer blockbuster movies, the phrase geek has become synonymous with fan, with fanatic, with intense. I mean, the Catholic Church would not have sprung up without Jesus geeks. You have pottery geeks. Every season, America becomes populated with football and math geeks as they all just play fantasy football every week. If there's something that you love, it became a positive title and another part of someone's personality that you could take on to say, this is something that I appreciate. So yes, I'm sort of a film geek, or I'm a Doctor Who geek. I'm a Netflix geek. There are people left and right who will proclaim that, though. If you want to say that geek was synonymous with nerd, yeah, that was definitely the stigma that they wanted to do as late as maybe late 90s or the 2000s. And then once the people who grew up watching cartoons were old enough to take over and start making those cartoons and catering to that nostalgia feeling, it became suddenly cool and popular to be nerdy and geeky. It was suddenly worth it to communicate using only Simpsons quotes.
Actually, jumping off a little bit, I've always looked at the terms, and mind you, this is just terminology, and it's not necessarily means anything big, but I've always looked at the term like geek and nerd slightly different, where a nerd might be into geeky things, but a geek might not be a nerd.
I mean, then what becomes the definition of nerd versus geek versus dork versus dweeb? I don't even think we have those last two. I think we just got rid of four-letter D words altogether. Geek and nerd, if you look at the success of Chris Hardwick's The Nerdist Network, this is a channel of just people who love listening to Alton Brown, Bill Nye the Science Guy, people who see the geek as an expert. They are a sultan on a very specific category. I mean, who did you look for to get off of Gilligan's Island? You looked for the professor to get off the island. You weren't going to look at the millionaire. The skipper was going to be completely useless. Ginger, she's fine, but she's not going to help you get off the island per se. There's the idea of the geek as the bastion of wisdom, or I have an expert friend whom we can talk to about this.
As you get older and you hold on to these things, like still watching animation, whether it's anime or US cartoons or however you like to look at it, playing video games, D&D, Magic the Gathering, even Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that stuff. Holding on to that as you get older in life, do you consider that something that is healthy, unhealthy, or indifferent?
The definition of healthy has a bunch of definitions to it. It's learning to play different roles in different phases of my life. When you're 15 years old, you don't know how much free time that you have. But if it's worth it to give yourself that micro ritual of every morning at 6 a.m. there's going to be Dragon Ball Z or Sailor Moon dubbed, every Sunday there's going to be a new episode of Beast Wars, or twice a month on Thursdays we'll gather at Ben's house and we'll experiment with D&D. It becomes if anything, an indicator of how you're doing socially, especially if you're able to expand, cultivate, and nurture the habit in others, inspire others to seek it out, because if anything else, you're trying to spread the community of the geek. And if the internet has done anything, it's become a giant series of islands. It is a macrocosm of microcosms. Whatever is your interest, you'll find people of similar level of interest, similar need for that interest. The older I get, I think I've become much better at, I guess at this point, it's scheduling permanence and then putting things in the proper order, or at least perspective. I understand that, yes, a wedding is going to be slightly more important than catching up on Netflix. I understand that, yes, work will come before a Dungeons & Dragons session. I understand, yes, I can stay up all night for the newest Pokemon release. That doesn't mean I'm going to be functioning the next day. And if there's something like a presentation at work, why put yourself in that dangerous situation? It really, and then what it becomes is a grounding point, and as I mentioned before, nostalgic. It becomes something that is part of your identity as well. One of my best friends from junior high and I, we can speak in Mighty Max quotes or that first season of Digimon, Chrono Trigger references. That is what I see and remember every time that I see his face. I'm back to being anywhere from 13 to 16, never older, because that's when we split off and went to college, but we still keep in contact. It helps because we're such a storytelling and I guess just a visual culture.
Obviously, I've known you for a while now. I've seen your material both on stage and off stage. You have a lot of witty humor. You could have chosen to go a lot of different directions, even broader humor. So what made you choose to become a geek-only comedian?
The thing is, I went to New York Comic Con my junior year of college with Lowell, and I couldn't believe how in my element, how comfortable I was. Everything I wanted to see, wanted to talk about, everything that was relevant to me as a consumer of modern media was there and present. More so in the panels and the presentations and the upcoming comic books that were being released. It meant nothing to me to meet anybody from television. I have a very definite relationship with an actor's character. I don't need a relationship with that actor. That's also their job, is doing that role. So why impose after it? Getting into the convention circuit, I thought would be a dream. I know from the fact that this is not a career choice. This is not a living. One does not simply make career choices going into the geek scenes. They are a luxury. They are a statement of wealth if you're able to go to them. They're a statement that says, I need this community. I need the following repetitious feelings at a convention. Anime specific, because that's what I knew. I was the president of my anime club at the time, and in college, I swam away from what they were trying to teach me, and I dove more and more, harder and harder into vertical graphic novels, into Will Eisner work, the works of Alan Moore, and even more into anime once I realized it was anime. When I was president of the anime club, I wanted there to be structure. I wanted to be teaching something every week. So February was all shoujo week. So there was a classic, a new age, a weird take on a shoujo. Then there was a magical girl month. Then there was a mecha month. Then there was a cyberpunk month. There was always something I wanted to teach and have people walk away with, whether it was something that I knew personally or I was discovering and diving in for the first time. The idea of just being a stand-up comedian, I didn't think that was going to be the job, or I had no idea it would be full-time. When I got into the circuit, we're talking 2007, 2008, there were at least 2 conventions happening every weekend across the world that were anime or comic book specific. And at this point, as we're approaching 2014, there are 40 My Little Pony specific conventions. That does not include all the startup anime conventions, all the startup comic book conventions, all the startup general geek, steampunk, goth. There is something out there for everybody. And interestingly enough, there are multiple every weekend across the United States. Is it fun to travel? Yep. But if anything, it's just teaching me more to trust my instincts and develop public speaking. It's there to develop my writing and performance as well. Can it translate into anything else? I didn't know when I got started. I just wanted to go into conventions without having paid for them. The only thing I knew to do was talk very loudly about something that I liked, and that was the very first. This is the very first Comic-Con. That was the very first Zenkai-Con. Was what do I know? I know Death Note and Ronin Warriors like the back of my hand. Can I yell about this for an hour? I think so. I learned no. So the props ended up taking over, but as time goes on, there are more and more things I'm trying to dive into. Do I want to step out of the geek-specific label? Yeah, I definitely think so. You look at successes like Chris Hardwick or upcoming comedians like Mike Lawrence, or even as the alternative comedy circuit, Patton Oswalt, Brian Hussein. These are guys who are geeks, but they want to talk about drinking and dating, and then put a nerdy spin on it if need be. But that's just for the nerds out in the audience. They're still generally talking about the general things that comedians have always spoken about. And what I find myself doing as I get older is I'm finding ways of linking my younger anime-driven audience into more modern things. Like what my whole bit about IKEA porn was the idea of restructuring and making the most of tiny spaces is the same drive that I had watching tentacle hentai and playing Tetris all my life. Of this is gonna fit here, or even play, what is it, the inventory box from Diablo 2. So many countless hours of I got a battle axe. There's enough squares, but there's not enough space. No, the wand's gonna go here. The cow skull's gonna there. We will put this battle axe in this box one way or another. We will do this.
Reminds me of Resident Evil 4 did the same thing. It's like, I'm going to fit the shotgun here, but then there goes my sniper. No, it's getting in there.
I've only got so much room for healing, so I better be damn good with that shotgun. Oh, yeah. Or I better be really reliant on those medicinal plants. I love that they just give you like green, yellow, or red cannabis. Thanks. What's that going to do? We'll find out.
Before we get into the extremely kind of really fun stuff to talk about, kind of want to go into a slightly more serious level. One of the things, like growing up, I mean, it's changing, the culture is changing because of the media, and that's something I'd like to definitely talk to you about a little bit later down the line with the internet and social networking and stuff like that. But I can't speak for everybody budding geek or nerd that was growing up in school, but I definitely had a very hard time because of that status. And some people would make fun and stuff like that. Do you believe that this status still exists? And if it does, is it something that's going away, or is it something that could be sticking around for a while?
Having not been in high school for a good 15 years, not even to visit, I can't say. I'll say that there's always a reason that people can engineer for there to be differences. You'll look at a homogenous culture like Japan, and they give blood types as a definite statistic, as in their birthday, their height, favorite food, blood type. You can't even tell someone's blood type, but they'll invent it. They'll give you some kind of a stricture. And I've, you know, you can be repressed for almost anything. The only thing I've never been is like either being an Aries or left-handed. But everyone really is a combination of all these different circles of Venn diagrams of their culture, their upbringing, even their family rituals, what food they grew up with. And somewhere where all these circles intermene is going to be that individual. Bullying is part of the development that comes with being an insecure teenager. I'm very sad and sorry to say it. I've been a victim of bullying, and I responded by myself bullying other people, or people who may have been shorter than me, or any weird artificial constrictor I could have created to give myself the repeated comfort of, they are that, I am not. And by my being separate from that, I'm safe on this little mental pedestal. But if you ever notice, the popular kids, the jock who is good at throw ball and chases the ball like a nice little puppy, or the hot girl in school, if you ever notice, they're only popular among their group of friends. And not to say that there were really constrictors like really Saved by the Bell-esque what we had. We just had a very homogenous group of what I grew up with. Like, we had a Chinese and Jewish kid, and she was the black girl. She was our black chick. We didn't have any possible cultural diversity, so we had to make up and engineer stuff like that. Bullying is absolutely going to continue because it's a human endeavor, and it's always going to be there so long as people feel like they're not being listened to or not paid attention to. It's a fast way to get that even negative attention is still attention. But what I see happening more and more is younger kids can get so much more vocal online now that they have the option for it. If you truly want to lose faith in humanity, don't watch the YouTube video, scroll beneath it and just see sort of the shock level of ignorance that people are going for and what they want. They want to start drama. They want to start a negative reaction spell because it's the same automatic response that we get that placates us every time we put up a Facebook update, a tweet. We're looking for that one. Someone liked it. Someone responded to it. Yeah, someone paid attention to me. Me am good. You am not, so you am bad. We just get the bizarro Hulk mentality. Sad to say, a lot of people love Hulk because the Incredible Hulk is such a simple concept. If you get pushed into a corner, you're going to push back, destroy the corner, and everything directly in front of you. And so many people take that idea that anger is power to mean something positive when it's not. We're higher, and now at this point, a more educated culture. Diplomacy has to come through first. Kids will always bully. That is, it's in their biological nature. Just like kids will do what their parents don't tell them to do behind their back, kids are going to eventually learn to masturbate one way or another. And it's a difference of, in this case, culture, whether they're going to guilt themselves about it during or later. But some things are always going to be apparent because it's human nature.
Today, it's no secret that everybody and anybody who has a phone could get on the internet. Phones, social network. You got tablets, smartphones, laptops, desktops. I mean, you can walk into like a million places and just get connected 24/7. Whether you have 3G, 4G, or just a Wi-Fi single, you are able to get online. That means Facebook. That means Twitter. That means a million other social sites. How do you think this is helping or not helping the geek culture grow?
The internet, I think it coming into domestic establishments with AOL, I think that is one of the most crucial things, say for the transition between VHS and DVD technologically, that made the otaku culture, the anime-specific culture, explode the way it did. The necessity of creating a cultural mythology, if I may, such a DC Comics writes about how all of their people are essentially this weird mythological triad. All of their people, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, are these modern gods. Marvel talking about how they are people that ascend to become gods. Essentially, we're doing the same thing again and again that we've done throughout anthropological history in this case. But the key, I think, to using social media, especially if you're establishing any form of a voice for yourself, a persona for yourself, something online that you want to do, whether it's even the Twitter feed Feminist Hulk, or it's a series of blogs that you want to do based on what your cat did every day, you're going to fulfill a weird micro niche for someone out there who really needs it. What social media does is it dissolves the fourth wall that used to be there between the fans and the writers and the creators. Now that the convention circuit is the big mentality, San Diego Comic-Con explodes throughout CNN, modern news sources. And what are they talking about? Oh, a bunch of people are gathering over here. That is the city of San Diego's biggest money-making weekend. And they love and worship Comic-Con. Restaurants across the street from Otakon in Baltimore have, if you show us your pass, yep, 10% off your bill. Are you a nerd? Can you answer the trivia question? We'll slash off the bill. We've got a special cocktail just for people here for Comic-Con. It's being encouraged to be more and more, and some people can take it to be an excuse of, good, now you can continuously be that 10-year-old kid clutching your Batman comic to your chest of like, this is my hero, so this is a good thing. I can permanently stay 20 years old. I worry about it later on becoming something of a lost generation of people who were able to stay artificially through this consumption of media, mentally 12 years old permanently. The positive things that can grow out of it is people are learning to comfortably branch out and talk to other people. You see positive conventions such as Penny Arcade Expo and MagFest, all music and gaming cultures, not specifically video games, but gaming together, in which you need either an opponent or a cooperative play where you sit down with strangers and you're all bound in that event. You have the option of learning and meeting different people that you wouldn't, but you all have finally the modern call line. And that's what bars and dating have been trying to do for millennia, is there's got to be something in common that we have to talk about. At least at a convention, someone stresses something that I know, I'm going to high-five them for that costume and then ask, what was your favorite moment about that show? I saw that show too. What was your favorite moment? Do you have the DVDs? Have you heard about the sequel series? And we're suddenly best friends, but we've never met for the first time.
But actually continuing on with the internet, because it's giving a lot of people voices that may not have had a voice before. But also it's giving a lot of creative people a chance to get their voice out there. At least the way I see it, that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. Things like, I don't know, if you want to put up a web series, you can put up a web series. You can get started for $1,000 or less. You can get yourself a minor editing program and put it all together. Make a CD or a DVD. I know you've done so yourself with the Uncle Yo projects. Can you speak a little bit about like these people that might even, do you believe, like not just the internet itself, but the people who are going out there and creating these series, these web series, the DVDs, the CDs, the audio plays, how they're helping to expand the geek culture?
What I find most interesting about the top tier fan celebrities, these are people who didn't make it famous because they were actors who happened to be in Star Trek, actors who happened to be in Star Wars, people who made something as an homage to something that they love. You look at Brentalfloss. I love this game. I'm a musical theater guy. I always write songs. What if that had lyrics? The fan celebrity comes about because they have a love that they need to express. They have an opinion that really helps hook on a lot of people through something that they recognize. I get on stage at a Pokemon convention, and you bet I'm going to do my bit Pokemon Sex Offenders. I'm going to talk about the Pokewalker bit that I used to do. But you need that hook to hook into that giant crowd. Some people start up just because they like it, it's fun, it was a challenge, it was a gag, and before they know it, they found what they're really good at. And that's where it can pick up and get extraneously weird. If you look at the huge people online who are famous because they play video games, they do live plays, and there are people who will spend 4, 5, 6 years in grad school learning how to deliver a line, learning how to act, learning marketing, and then we accidentally stumble upon it. It becomes this mass data, this big data project of what does it take to engineer fame. And we've tried this a bunch of times. There've been experiments with other geek comedians, and they'll cater directly to a fan base, try to sneak their video on the front page just to see what is the initial searching, what can happen in a week. Sometimes it's a flash on the pan, which everyone's 15 minutes of fame is now 15 seconds, thanks to the attention span of Vine. Some people become Vine celebrities and then compilate it all together and put it on YouTube. You just don't know. At this point, no one can still engineer fame about it. There's an anecdote that I think it was Andy Samberg, Will Ferrell, a bunch of huge SNL names were going to spend close to $250,000 engineering a viral video, and no one has seen it. No one even remembers it. But Dick in a Box, I threw it on the ground, Green Team on Funny or Die, Pearl, the landlord, Will Ferrell being yelled at by a 1-year-old and being called bitch by a 1-year-old, that just works. We don't yet know why. The internet gives us the chance to really engineer and try on a limb. The danger is if you go out expecting it to work, because it will not work. Just as anyone who's ever started a mini magazine will tell you, anyone who's ever started a band, anyone who's ever started to write a novel, ever tried to open a restaurant, so many things shut down in that first year. If you stay afloat, maybe it's because you're doing something sincere. I find that is the biggest through line between everything that is famous, all of the animators that made it to Newground and jumped into it, all of the writers of Adventure Time who started just doing their own little web comic, all the web comics who become more popular and making more money than Jim Davis ever did writing Garfield. They do it because it's something that they know and it's something that they love. And that sincerity, I think, always comes through the work.
The other thing I tend to notice too with the online creative community is that not in every case, I'm sure this can be rebutted in a lot of ways, but from what I've noticed is that if something, and you say, is sincere and people get together and work it, that there is a large support for it. Like people will come in and they will support each other to make it work together, collaborate, maybe even add to the community. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
For anyone interested in engineering a fandom or a major idea, I recommend the Amanda Palmer TED Talk, in which she talks about essentially being a traveling nomadic gypsy, relying on social media and her personal connection with her fans. I'm in the following city, I have a show in 6 hours, does anybody have a solid white piano topped with a skull? And people will show up at the concerts with the props or whatever that she needs. We're in this abandoned parking lot, and one person tells another person who tells another 5. She made the whole point be, rather than music corporations and big companies telling you what to want, what about the artist being in a position to ask for help and ask for support and ask for things like Kickstarter? Here's the thing that we want to do. Here are some of the names behind it. If we reach this, we can reward you with this. Again, destroying that wall between the consumer and the artist. And that's interesting because you'll see people I've been to conventions that I've called, wait, why are we a guest again, Con? I've had no idea why people have been there, but there's one person that weekend who shows up, gets blown away, and I guess it's just for that. Maybe it's for that one person, but it can always be the same. Maybe it's just a fame quota that has to be met at some point. Patrick Stewart can get the same reactions as people who leap up and down at the sight of other internet celebrities. The fun thing about internet film. The fun thing about internet fame is that you can have 300,000 views, and no two fans exist in the same county. And you may never know that, and they may never know that. You may be a convention name, but you'll never be a household name. The tiny, tiny rivulet of exposure that we used to have on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, having only 3 channels. If you got on, you were an overnight sensation, you were a household name. And what did that get you? Maybe a deal, maybe something else, maybe got you talks with a movie. What the big corporations are now, what Hollywood is now as a media generating engine, they're not so much a multi-headed hydra that's telling people what they want. They're a giant ball of ears and a giant net being cast out all over the place. What is popular? What is being downloaded? What hit most? Did you see the viral engineer to promote Carrie, the re-release of Stephen King's Carrie? An amazing film, Carrie. The re-release, no one's going to go see it because it has nothing to do with the novel and even less to do with the original movie. That is such a beloved horror trope. But a coffee shop decided to engineer a stunt, a publicity stunt in which an angry girl uses the same Carrie level telekinesis on some dude. Everyone freaks out, shows it on their video, uploads it, becomes a viral sensation. And now the people who make money off of that is Yahoo.com, who puts it on their front page. There is a meta circle out there of just meta reviewers, meta humorists, who will take a 30-second YouTube video and make a 3-minute long video of them reviewing step-by-step the video and then going back to their snarky, jealous, and crappy reactions to the video. And you'll wonder, why are we listening to you and your opinion on something that already existed? Screw you, they made something. You just have to harp on that? You're just vocal graffiti at this point. You're just a parasite to someone that's slightly more creative. You're just an agent, but vocal about it.
Who do you believe right now, if there is anybody you could point out to, who do you believe is like pioneering this right now, really pushing out, or do you think it's kind of everybody's?
Give or take, depending on the market. I think that what Pendleton Ward did with Adventure Time and then created his own company, Cartoon Hangover, on YouTube, where he and his partner are in direct control of the art that's being made, the cartoons being produced, and also the money and revenue coming into it. That's intelligent. When you step away from something huge, when you step away from the comfort of having an agent, a steady salary paycheck, and become your own boss, and you're constantly giving your people what they want, which is more of the same thing. Not changing, not taking risks, not regenerating the Doctor for a 14th time, but the same thing that they know week after week. That is steady revenue. the people who do it right on YouTube constantly release, constantly cater, and constantly take care of their listeners and their community. The people who do it huge, who become huge Twitter handles, they're there because of something else, but it's a great way to let people know about their upcoming events. At this point now, no one ever has to worry about when or what their favorite celebrity is up to because of social media, because of fan pages, because of even the theater venue themselves. You will never question or need to ask, when are we going to see so-and-so? When are we going to see Jim Gaffigan here at Carnegie Hall? When are we going to see, what is Lewis Black up to now? You'll always be in the know. But the people who rise to the top are the ones that constantly do it and constantly generate it. So that's the thing is, if you want it and you care about it, don't ever stop. I'm not saying it will come back and support you in the end, but if you really want to prove to people this weird demigod of fame that they have going on in your head, if you want to validate someone's faith in you, be the inspiration that you needed when you were younger.
Continuing just a little longer with the internet, we can't talk about the internet without at least bringing Netflix up. It may have started off as a DVD rental service, but it has pretty much, even though you can still get the DVDs, not many people do that anymore. It's fairly much your streaming video. A lot of, and not only that, but Netflix is also responsible for original series now, which is changing the landscape of television, probably even changing the landscape of the quote-unquote 15 minutes of fame and so forth. So basically what I'd like you to do is just discuss a little bit what you think about like the streaming video, Netflix, Hulu Plus, stuff like that.
I'll tell you what's interesting about engineering internet fame is you can't directly go in with that intention. If you remember several years ago, an internet meme, "Leave Britney alone." Leave Britney alone. That person was a guest of honor at 3 anime conventions. Why? I have no idea. What are they possibly going to get from that besides that minute-and-a-half video? Can you do the thing that we know? Okay, bye. What was the point of that? Fame in a flashpan and never even knew about it. Now you look at media distributors like Netflix, and in the anime circuit, we have Crunchyroll.com. Crunchyroll does live streaming of anime as it premieres over in Japan. If you want to be on the same week, $7.95, the same thing as Netflix. Hulu Plus the same way, otherwise you'll just be a week behind and you'll constantly be interrupted by commercials. But having the freedom now to choose what and to what capacity of media that you watch, and for Netflix to be watching you and say, you would never know about this awesome work. You would never know about Blackadder if you didn't watch a bunch of British sitcoms. But because you watch this, see what you think about Blackadder. It's now suggesting, Netflix is now someone's personal private geek. It is their private media guru that can say, if you liked this, because you watched this, check this out. There are so many wonderful documentaries that I was watching just based on corporate takeover America, based on the top 1%. And I also have a big passion for green energy, solar panel, wind panel. So I found a bunch of documentaries, Carbon Nation, Windfall, positive and both negative documentaries on the ultimate effect of green energy technologies. I never would have been able to find those on my own, just searching through the ether. Netflix and Google end up restructuring the way that the human brain works. As opposed to 8 p.m. on Sunday in America, Fox, that means The Simpsons. It's meant for 2 generations. That's what that means. Monday morning, newspaper. Monday night, football. But removing that constriction, removing that need to be at a certain place at a certain time, and giving people a level of freedom that we haven't seen culturally since the development of the washing machine and dishwasher. Because now that all that manual labor is taken out of your time is now yours. Being able to watch what you want, when you want, to the capacity that you want it. We've never seen this kind of freedom before. What it does, I think, is maybe it'll just de-engineer the need for generational appearance or appeal. Buster Keaton is available on Netflix. You don't have to be some weird guy who knows a guy who knows a guy with these weird laser discs. You don't have to be a film professor in a conservatory to have access to this. You have access to everything that you need when you need it. That's fascinating, to see people carry their media with them and to no longer need to stop watching. That's neat. That is engineering a level of Matrix-like dedication that we always accredited the television for doing. But now that we can carry the television with us, we're back to roaming.
Very much so. No, it's very true, because the whole landscape of television is changing. In a lot of ways, some of the cable networks have kind of jumped in and have kind of reaped success based on this, because where the networks are still structured in a certain way, the cable networks are willing to take risks. They still have the be here at 9 p.m., but if you miss it at 9 p.m., we're going to rerun it at 11, and we're going to rerun it at 3 a.m., and then we'll probably rerun it just before the new episode next week. So do you think that maybe this whole idea of Netflix and streaming video has influenced the way cable networks are working?
The smart people working in modern media today, working at Viacom, working for Nickelodeon, are smart enough to invest in their side spin-off projects to cater to a specific mentality that they want. There is the GQ network for men. There is the Oxygen network that used to be the Hallmark, used to be the women's network. We can now cater to every possible microcosm imaginable. What major cable networks are doing is putting faith that Americans like quality. The moment, I remember the night that Seinfeld stopped, the last episode of Seinfeld, where we basically saw, and was still being hailed at the time, of the peak of television. It ended right after that. Survivor, the first reality game show. Maybe, Road Rules or the Living Together, whatever MTV was trying to engineer at the time. Was it House Rules? Anyway, when reality television hit, we were stagnant for 10 years. There was nothing good on television, and nothing was pulling anything together until Netflix came along and said, we'll give you the option of watching when you want what you want. No longer going to channel 2 or 53 and just scrolling through what is on right now, what will be on in the next hour and a half, not even relying on TV Guide when something will be on or available, like a convention schedule. But what's going to happen when convention schedules just pre-record all their panels and then just release it as ever they want, whenever their opportunity comes up? Fox was very smart developing FX, which is weird and biting and strange and as edgy as Fox was way back in the beginning. No longer needing to cater to giant general audiences and water something down, like taking Joss Whedon, who gave us Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and watering it down to make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now he has to cater to everybody. So the fans are still going to find their direct niche market. The mass media productions, as I said, are going to have to keep their ears and eyes open for what people want. When a show like Lost came about, which was filmed in HD, huge, glorious, spanning films, you see television being filmed and treated like they're movies. You see more money, more capital, more risks being taken, and lo and behold, people loved it. People loved the idea of a science fiction show that was well written. You got Babylon 5, you got Battlestar Galactica. No one knew how to handle it. And we're still learning how to handle good medium. There's always going to be the need for catchy and fun things. Supernatural remains highly popular, but it's on the CW, which is what? Just hot, shirtless, white people stabbing either ugly people or vampires. That's what that whole network is, essentially, is hot people stabbing vampires. But guess what? There's a whole demographic called young girls who like that. You'll easily find that demographic, and what the big data is giving us now is the quickest, easiest access. We already have mass algorithms going right now, following your every move on the internet, and eventually just catering to something that you like. Click on enough things on Facebook, and Facebook will give you the ad that was geared directly to someone that you are mimicking. And that's unbelievable. Yes, we are directly giving people the media that they want and deserve, but it's also still making us very codependent and forcing us to really not think outside of a box or go searching for anything. The old geek way of the hardcore fan searched. They went on this quest, this journey to some old record store, the basement of some video store. They went to the weird, dislocated uncle of a guy and found Faulty Towers on VHS. But now, oh, it's on Netflix. Never mind. The journey is gone, and the media consumption, the media gluttony is on full. And it'll be very neat to see in the next 5-10 years, how will people break free from that and still try to remain healthy or active or interested or thinking?
I remember when I first got into anime some years ago, the only way to get it was on third or fourth generation recorded tapes. And it was the only way to get it, and you had to be very crafty in finding it. It's like your friend would be like, I've got this copy of Vampire Hunter D. It's still in Japanese with no subtitles.
We'll find a way to make that work. I have the 4th volume of Berserk. I don't know where 1 and 2 are, but I've got 4, 6, and 7. We could kind of marathon that, right? Right? It was always incomplete, and you were a completist when you wanted the full story. And that was the funnest part. But now with it all being such an easy to grab package, something I talk about at shows now is these kids growing up in 2013, the people who get into anime because of Crunchyroll, Attack on Titan, who can just start from the beginning of any show that they want and catch up. I'm playing catch up. There's no challenge anymore. They're going to be in their 40s and say, you don't know how hard we had it at the beginning of the 2010s. If you wanted something new, you got it. You had to turn on your own iPad and you had to click the app and that was it, but it was horrible. Now they just shoot it into your head like a staple gun. It's so much easier.
I can see that happening too, every generation, right?
Mm-hmm. And now you're at a point where entire series, entire seasons are the cost of what one DVD would be. Media has learned to cater to the needs and availability of their fans. They realize that if you can save the consumer time, they will always come back. If you keep releasing on that one YouTube channel, or you just set it to automatically do a playlist, and you even prevent them from clicking the button themselves, oh, they're so happy. Pandora.com. Set up your radio station, and you don't have to keep clicking. You don't have to use YouTube, open up a bunch of tabs, and have that be your makeshift radio station, taking away that extra work. But engineering that work as well is helping develop somebody. Even doing something the long way is still teaching someone how to do the efficient way. But all of culture is standing on the shoulders of, not of giants, but of giants made of smaller people holding up each other. So it's much more of a pyramid rather than riding on the shoulder of a titan. It's all these incremental steps that's going to make media so instantly gratifying and instantly available to a point where people won't even have the patience between series. And thank goodness shows can still take summer vacations to ensure that the writers have the time. Thank goodness Venture Brothers was off the air for a year and a half. Those 8 episodes we got of Series 5, magnificent. And I will totally take that. I tell them on social media, if Jackson Public and Doc Hammer ever want to stop and just say, all right, we're done. That was the last season. Fine. Walk away while it's still good. Walk away while it's still high. And create something else. We'll be backing you up the whole time.
Cosplay. We got to talk about cosplaying a little bit. Now, obviously, cosplaying is a big deal. You know, for a convention goer, cosplaying is like Halloween every time they walk in. They get to be their favorite characters, dress up as they want to do, and stuff like that. What do you think the need for cosplaying is?
I won't say cosplay is Halloween, and I also won't say that Halloween is cosplay. Halloween is an excuse for New Jerseyans and Long Island jackasses to swarm and vomit on the streets of New York City. Halloween, I truly believe, is a verb and a mindset. Cosplay is the same thing. It is a hobby that cannot be taught and automatically given. What you will see American nerds do beyond anything else, they want to put themselves into the medium. They don't just want to watch it. They want to believe, become, and be initiated into it. And you will see so many self-designed Mary Sues for Naruto, Teen Titans. Any show or any media that gives its fans a bunch of clubs, which member are you, whether it be the Harry Potter fraternities, whether it's the Homestuck Trolls, whether it's even like which Sailor Scout was your favorite. So which planet is your favorite? Which blank of these blanks is your favorite? They need that. I think fans need it by projecting themselves into it. Whenever big thing that worked for me, I loved both Sonic the Hedgehog series. When they came out on ABC, and then UPN a little bit ago, Sonic the Hedgehog used to have two simultaneously running completely different shows, one on ABC and one on UPN. The ABC one, I loved the animation so much more, and I don't know why I did this, but I always put myself into the script as pretty much the genie in Aladdin. Because that was the Mary Sue, overpowered, transformed, summoned, do whatever you want. You want to help the main character, but also be recognized by the main character. And that's what cosplay does. Cosplay breaks the stricture of you are no longer Dave, or you are no longer Jessica, you are no longer needing to be the awkward teenager. You standing there, you are Deadpool. You are Goku. Someone's going to call you out. They're not going to know your name. They're going to call out for Goku. And suddenly you represent to that person what Goku always has to the both of you. That stalwart, idiot level of superhero power and dedication and courage in the face of impossible odds, of determination. That's what you mean and represent to them. Cosplay is not something that can simply be given to you. Some people will try to engineer it. They're already selling en masse Attack on Titan jackets, so you don't even need to learn how to make it. But my girlfriend said, no, if I'm going to dress as Mikasa, I'm going to take the extra step to dye the Mako scarf. I'm going to re-sew this jacket. I'm going to recreate it in this beloved idol's image. And for me to become the idol, it's letting people become these fascinating facets. Being, maybe it's a personal, nothing as far as redemption, but it is something that I am now Link. I am now Ganondorf. I am now whomever I needed or wanted to be. I now hold those morals and standards that I always wanted to be. I have a friend who never drops character when he's Deadpool. Never. Because that's what people want to see. That's what he loves. Those are the reactions that he loves. But at the same time, I have an older friend who always dresses as Captain America. Because Captain America represents to him what it does to everybody else. And a great story that he tells was when the East Coast Avengers gather anywhere, and the moments that get him off guard and make him almost tear up are the kids who run up to him, calling him Captain America and holding him up maps where the bad guys are, so he can go and protect them from the bad guys. Unbelievable. There's the girl who, maybe 2 years ago at Comic-Con, so the Avengers just came out. Captain America is posing. Cameras are everywhere. And this little girl screams and charges at him. And I've been at anime circuits long enough to know when a glomp is coming. She runs around the Captain America and jumps on the Deadpool, photobombing behind the Captain America. Because that was the person that she loved. There's another story where a 5-year-old kid was separated from his father and didn't go to the NYPD in the middle of the Jacob Javits Center. He didn't go to the Reed staff. He didn't go to anyone wearing a big t-shirt with walkie-talkie. He went to the one person whom he knew he could always trust. He ran up to the Flash. So some random stranger puts the kid on his shoulder. All right, let's go find your daddy, which means let's go find the NYPD. But the Flash helped me. And that kid will never forget or break that.
Cosplaying also, I know you've done some hosting of masquerades and stuff like that where they take the cosplaying a little further into roleplay. Could you discuss a little bit about where that goes? Is it the same general idea that is it like while you're masquerading you are those characters, you're presenting it out to people, stuff like that?
A fun part about making cosplay competitive is you're not just catering to the judges, but you're also figuring out what the fans want to see. If you come out and you are the big popular thing of the year, if you are Iron Man from the movie Iron Man, you're dressed as Iron Man, you're showing everything that is Iron Man, you better walk, sound, talk, and be it. what cosplay does on a public venue is it gives people the chance to explore those different archetypes. Like one of my favorite shirts of all time, a gag that shows the convergence of the internet culture. Voldemort from Harry Potter, Darth Vader from Star Wars, and Sauron from Lord of the Rings are sitting around a table drinking shots, and they all say, "Damn teenagers." Because all of them are these megalomaniac, super rich, super wealthy, evil people with dark evil powers who've sold their humanity. They're the same exact character, the exact same person, the same villainous thing. So what the fans like to do is recreate the stories however that they want. There's something appropriate to seeing Darth Vader walk on stage and he does the death grip, or he shoots lightning from his hands. But if Darth Vader comes on, looks left, looks right, and maybe puts on Britney Spears and just dances a little bit to make sure that, just to work off some steam, it's a private thing. It's so much funnier than just having a huge fat guy get on stage, Britney Spears, because anything can really happen. When you come on with that set character, that set archetype, you can now play with it and make it as funny or serious and dramatic however you want. But for all the models that get up there, they're showing class, demure, they're showing a confidence that they're wearing, a projected, staged, separate from their regular life confidence. They are performing, they are acting. But also, if you're seeing that character live, they are so much in a heightened sense of self-awareness and self-confidence that you in the audience would love to have one day. It's putting the spotlight on them and having that character that you have orchestrated. A very fun thing that video games will do, that very few people give them credit for, is how hard they will project you into it. If you are driving a car and you get hit by another person, you don't say, "He drove his car to hit my car." You say, "He hit me." If you're playing a video game, you're playing as Ryu from Street Fighter, he's playing Ryu as Street Fighter. I had that guy in a threshold. Not, I was orchestrating buttons that sent an electrical signal. It's never going to be that distracted. It's intimate. It's immediate. I have Dave in a headlock. No, Ryu has Ryu in a headlock on that screen. But fans still take it into themselves and still project it onto themselves. There are friends who become popular because at every convention, you'll see them in that one costume. Maybe it's a great costume. Maybe it's, half-assed, but they're really in the character well. Maybe they're always dressed as the one character, but they always hand out candy. They always do a certain event. They become this fan-celebrity pinnacle of something to strive for, a positive role model within a community. And make-believe characters, comic book characters, video game characters, they're nothing more than just role models that are easier to remember, but role models that you can gain control over, especially if you're controlling it in a video game.
So we've pretty much exhausted most of our questions, so we'd like to ask you if there is anything you'd like to add that we did not cover here today.
I think being self-aware of the label fan-celebrity is extremely dangerous to the original fan, the reason that the creation had to happen. If it suddenly becomes a job and it's ever as exhausting as a real job, then it can be very, very hard. A lot of people don't want to take the hobbies to the next level because they love the joy and the escapism of casual viewing. Someone writes an intense Breaking Bad blog every episode, every week they're going to put out something new, versus the fan who just watches it, loves it, and says, all right, I'm relaxed. Back to work tomorrow. Got to do the real thing. People need a separation of their real life toils and the thing that they love, whether it be secretly, publicly, or privately. There needs to be something other than what you do every day, unless you love it. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. But that becomes the problem. Other people are there at your job as well. A convention is a wonderful place to find yourself and finally dive into something that you love. It's a great gateway. However, I warn you now, a convention that boasts its numbers first before what it's providing, its programming, its guest, that's all they're ever going to care about is their numbers. New York Comic Con is Hollywood Take Two. just as San Diego Comic-Con. All those shows start by fans for fans. There's not a lot of money to be made into doing a trade show. That is a luxury. It's a luxury. And even during the recession, we saw DC make profit despite the recession. We saw video game companies making profit, people scrambling for escapism, alcohol sales through the roof during a recession, even more during a bust or a depression. We'll never see people let go of the comfort thing that they need. The convention is where you will meet face to face and be able to thank something that inspired you, whether it's a YouTube creator, no matter what it's going to be. Some people are going to meet the Sixth Doctor for the first time, Colin Baker from Doctor Who played the beloved character in the mid-'80s, and ask, what does he think of the new series? Because that's all that they know. He's associated with the thing that I know. Maybe it's 30 years after his time, but we still have that instant connection. So conventions really give people a chance to jump in for the first time or reignite their passion and their love of something, go into a discussion panel with a self-proclaimed fan-celebrity of it, and either challenge or let the joy wash over it. That's the whole point of these 40 My Little Pony conventions. People love it. They want to step into it and bask in this new community that they've engineered. And of all things to engineer, a cartoon convincing grown American men to be compassionate and friendly to one another and sing songs about fashion and love. Wow.
So would you say that there's definitely a difference between like these smaller, more single-oriented conventions and the larger ones, which obviously we're talking more New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, even Dragon Con, where they're starting to take on more everything. So this year, I think the number of Hollywood entertainers that they pulled into New York Comic Con is probably the highest they've pulled in recent years. So definitely, you would say there's a difference between those two different types of conventions.
Across the boards, conventions are popping up all over the place, and convention attendance is on the rise. And I've been trying for the last year on my podcast, We Are the Geek, to try and figure out how and why is this engineering, why will kids, because I remember being 15 years old, having zero money, how are they showing up at the same 5 or 6 events throughout the whole year? How are they taking these weekends off to drive up and go to these things? And it turns out it was never about the shows, but about the community, gathering and meeting more and more people and more like-minded individuals who love gripping stories, who love sharing their love of something, and it just being a safe and calm format. Smaller cons are my favorite because those are weekend-long meetings in a treehouse. Weekend-longs of spending in a friend's basement and meeting the same like 30, 40 people or same 300 people. A huge event is where you'll see the whole spectacle of it come out. You'll see the hero and fan worship of the big celebrities up there on the big stage with the big tables and the big mics and the big lights, and they're real, and I'm gonna ask them one of the same 6 questions that they get 1,000 times on Reddit, but they're gonna be talking to me, and that makes me special than all of them. Same constriction, same boundaries are being created from that. Just a bigger show will just be more exhausting. And for a weekend, everybody develops attention deficit disorder. A big convention is where smaller things can be pitched and recognized. A smaller convention that doesn't even have a proper, you want to say a proper guest list, nobody from the industry, but they can have a fan come in. They can have a fan celebrity, a webcomic guy come in, build up a little local following that becomes a bigger national following. And then they get pulled into Comic-Con. Very few people can get discovered at Comic-Con. But if you're going to, it's because you're going to be the biggest fan in that room.
Okay, so that's pretty much most of the questions, so I just wanted to go back one real quick thing and just have you riff real quickly on it. The stigmata, the geek, is the fat guy in the basement of their parents' house playing video games all day and doesn't have a job.
No longer the case. Geek is actually synonymous with fan, with expert, if you will. What was Socrates if not a philosophy geek? What was Jesus if not a Hasidic law geek? That's what he was good at. The people who are sitting alone in their parents' basement, well, guess what? There's always going to be a general type of that. A convention is not a gathering of those people stuck in basements. They're now appealing to a general enough public that you're seeing an interesting dichotomy of like cool kids at conventions and maybe not so much cool kids at a convention. But the fact is, if they're at the convention, if they have the courage to fight their anxiety, get out of there and actually show up, no matter what they're going to be in costume or not, they're there to have a good time. And they have just as much privilege as everyone else there to enjoy themselves to whatever safe, balanced capacity that they're allowed to. I've met my plenty of share of that guy. I've been to plenty of panels of how not to be that guy, which is a really backhanded way of saying you're that guy. People aren't going to like you because you are you. Sometimes it just happens. That weird stigmata that they used to have, the stigma that they used to have of they're just the weird, sweaty, smelly guy in a basement. You'll meet them, but you'll also meet them if you go on a subway train. You'll meet them if you go through the grocery store. There he is. You're always going to run into that guy or gal. But what that person who goes to the conventions has that no one else around them does is a community where he can be voiced, where he can go and feel appreciated or project appreciation onto something that needs and deserves it. You never know who or what you're talking to. Everyone is entitled to have that secret life, that secret love that gets them through the day. I'm going to tell you something. Life sucks. Life gets hard. Every job you'll ever have is basically high school, but people just get taller and douchier as they get older. And then they have kids and they just get more and more boring as they waste all their time trying to engineer into the kids. But having something that you love, even if it's just home-cooked food, even if it's that last gelato at the end of the day, maybe it's once a year going to Dorney Park, something that you love that defines you. It's an anime series. It's one episode of a show. One of my favorite animated adventures is like episode 14 or 16 of Ergo Proxy, a super weird, obscure anime, but it's waiting for Godot in a post-apocalyptic fantasy. That one episode where nothing happens, with monsters fighting, with people getting guns pulled on themselves, with people getting cloned, with cities collapsing. That episode of just two characters waiting in a sandy wasteland, waiting for the wind to pick up. What happens when the characters are bored? I love that. I love that they had the balls to step away from that. But that's my thing. Can I get into the Naruto and all the other big shows out there? Yeah, I can. I'm a big fan of One Piece. I'll argue Bleach is worth. I'm a fan of Attack on Titan. But we can all at least share it. It's a community first. The moment that it becomes about me, that's when the nerd and the geek becomes the elitist, becomes the self-proclaimed smelly guy in the basement who deserves to stay there. If it's not going to be, let me show you this. Oh, have you seen this? Can I round out your understanding more if you knew this? If they stop becoming the teachers and start becoming the I know everything and you don't, so frump, that's all that they deserve to be, is the frump.
And that's about it, unless there's anything else you want to add.
You got it, man.